Ladies and gentlemen, here we are for the final round of the Friday GT Sprint Challenge. Today we head to the sunny side of Spain as drivers will be taking on the latest addition to ACC. We're at Valencia. Welcome in everyone, I'm Tim Peck, joined today in the booth by Austin Devonshire, and we have RCI's very own Jesse Lee behind the cameras with us today. Austin, it's been a very exciting season so far, and all of it will be coming to an end in an hour and a half's time.
Yeah, I mean, it's had a bit of everything, really, hasn't it? We've had the chaotic races, funnily enough, at Barcelona in Spain at the start of the season, and coming full circle to Valencia. I feel like it's a good way to round the season off in such a way. Like British GT does Donington Park twice, right? So I'm sure we can do Spain twice. It's all good. So yeah, no, it's looking to be a fun one, Tim.
Absolutely, and you mentioned we started off this championship in Barcelona very, very different 5 weeks ago when we were back in round one, because of course we've had a patch since then, Austin. It fixed the time model a little bit. I mean, going back to Valencia, we had tyres running out after about 5 minutes, and most drivers having to opt into changing for the pit stop. Of course, the whole championship has been running since the latest update, so time models have been different as a whole. But again, a lot of change throughout the season as well. So when we come here to Valencia, it's going to be a very different story to how it was at Barcelona anyway, just because we've had a couple of fixes. The cars are a little different, but all in all, a lot of the same faces showing up. And despite the fact the field, it's a little thin today, Austin. We only have 10 drivers out at the moment. You've still got the heavy hitters in the championship. The Streppens up there with Grant Willamot as well. Billy Octane showing up. And noticeably, if you look towards the silver split, you've got Joshua Lation, Wilkinson, and Duret, the three that have been dominating the silver class so far this season as well. So we're still in for a very exciting race today, despite the smaller field.
Yeah, and that lag spec we just saw there, that was Martin Lawrence joining the service. So you talk about heavy hitters there, Tim. I mean, let's not beat him around the bush. He's so far ahead in terms of points for the championship right now. He doesn't even really need to qualify. Let's be real. But no, he has joined the server. He's here now. He's a little bit late, but it's good to see him back. And I think we've got a good race in our hands, Tim, because I mean, with the likes of Lation, there has been fighting with Verstappen. And speaking of which, Lation going into P2, half a second behind Willamot, who's currently sitting provisional pole with a 1:31 dead. We'll have to see what Verstappen and Lawrence can come out.
Absolutely, it's going to be very exciting to see what all the different drivers, can do here. I mean, like you said, Martin Lawrence, they have won this championship already. They didn't even have to show up today. Just a couple of points ahead of Verstappen will make sure they secure this championship. But it's nice to see him show up. Today will definitely be a good day for them to showcase what they can do at Valencia as well, and show that this championship wasn't a fluke for them. They've done a phenomenal job the whole way through, winning the majority of the races outright. They've obviously got the first 3 wins of the season, and then coming second place in the following 2 races. Just helped them secure that victory as well. Verstappen has had a terrible season for what we are used to seeing them do, obviously finishing 13th place at Barcelona, DNFing as well. And then later on in Paul Ricard, finishing 10th wasn't their ideal finish too. So Verstappen, not where they want to be. They're going to be racing for second place in the championship today. Grant Willemot currently holding on to that position. And with a current pole provisional time of a 1:30.985, we'll be looking to secure that second place overall as well, Austin. Grant Willemot, someone who came into this championship, looked very strong over at Barcelona for the first round, managed to secure themselves that final spot on the podium. And I think still surprising us, but doing a great job at it, has consistently performed well across the season.
Yeah, they have done. I mean, you can't really argue with kind of, some of the races they've put in. They might not be finishing at the top every single race, but they've been consistent, and that is what will ultimately get you points and win you championships. You also said Verstappen having a bit of a terrible season, but I'm wondering how much of that is the car, though. I mean, they did say, oh, that's a Lamborghini facing sideways, and that'll be Durette, the only other Lambo on the grid. That was the number 30. So. No, you were saying Verstappen having not as a shining season as they would normally, but I'm wondering how much of that is the Bentley, because they did say they're in that car just to get a little bit of information, just to sort of see how it performs over the course of a season, and I think we're starting to find out the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, yeah, like you said, Verstappen came into this. They said they were doing the Bentley for research here, because of course this was a championship where all of the new cars were added from the beginning, and they said they want to know how it compared to the new Ferrari. We've seen a great deal of the new Ferrari as well across this championship. We know it's the car that most drivers feel comfortable behind after just a couple of races. Same with the Lamborghini. That's also performed quite well too. And the Porsche, I know, is a noticeable upgrade on the old one. So we're against all of the new cars that have been added to ACC. Verstappen going with that daring choice, picked up the Bentley, did it for research, wants to know how it performs across the championship as a whole. And yeah, as you said, maybe now we are starting to see that the Bentley not performing how they want it to across the season. That being said, though, despite a rough start, did manage to pull it back towards the end. They won at Zandvoort a couple of weeks ago, and then also managed to secure a podium at the beginning of the season at Alton Park, and last week as well at the Nürburgring. So definitely not a bad car, but maybe struggling a little bit compared to what we see Verstappen usually. I mean, they won the last championship, they've won several Friday champs in the past. We do expect to see them at the top winning races, if not on that podium. I think it took a lot of people by surprise just to see them falling down the grid a bit so far this season. Like we said, DNFing that first race and then finishing 10th with Paul Ricard. Not where the fans expected to see Verstappen this season.
No, but again, as you said, for rough start to the season, they kind of got a little bit. I think the word bullied is the correct term for Barcelona, and that kind of just set the tone a little bit at first. So, no, you're right. They've pulled it back towards the end of the season, and maybe something in the car's starting to click, or maybe there's just there's some balancing updates that have happened between now and when we started. I actually know that. I was actually told whilst I was away last week that the Bentley had actually received a buff, apparently. So that's from what I've been told. I haven't looked at the patch notes yet. But yeah, apparently it's something like minus 10 kilos or something like that. I'm only going from what I've been told. As I said, I haven't seen the patch notes. I don't know how accurate that information is, but apparently, the Bentley could actually be quite a strong option.
It is interesting you mentioned that. Yeah, I've just noticed there was an update a week ago, a small patch like you said, and the Bentley is mentioned briefly here, although it doesn't go into too much detail about what happened. But yeah, maybe like you said, we will see a bit more performance out of the Bentley today. Currently running P3 in qualifying. By the way, 10 minutes of qualifying has passed already. Of course, drivers get 15 minutes in this championship to set a pole lap time. And Martin Lawrence, notably, Paul Ricard was setting a final lap. Literally, the clock had hit 0. It was the final lap Martin Lawrence did, and just able to secure a pole position in that time. So do expect to be seeing those times going up across the session as well. Of course, Valencia being the latest addition to ACC as well. has been out for a couple of months, Austin, but drivers still very much getting used to it across the track as well. So we'll see how those track times improve as the session continues. Looking at the times right now, Martin Lawrence only able to secure 10th place, a time of 1:32.6 for them. Hard to tell at this point if that's the fastest they can go at the moment around Valencia, or if they've maybe just been losing a bit of time around the track somewhere. Of course, you've got Ted Edwards and Kwiatkowski towards the back as well. Then you have the silver split trio. You've got Lation, Duret and Jack Mekov making a debut in this race as well. They are sitting 5th, 6th and 7th. Grant Willimot currently holding that provisional pole, has improved that time to 1:30.6 and has held it since. And then Wilkinson, the nearest competitor, 6/10 off that pole time. It's looking today, Austin, a very good race for Willimot. They can get a pole position with 6/10 to the nearest competitor. I mean, they're going to be laughing around the track today.
I mean, yeah. I mean, 6/10 is an age, especially on a 1:30 pace track. It's quite a big gap. So Ted Edwards is kind of coming across the line any moment now, and they're up on their time, going up into P6, so jumping Mekov and Duret, but still behind Lation. But that will be P6 for Ted Edwards.
Yeah, that's great for Ted Edwards, just to be promoted up against the silver drivers, of course. There's no rule that silver drivers have to get out of the way. They can absolutely fight for the positions they've earned, and despite that, it means that pro drivers they won't get any points for overtaking them as well. So it really mixes up the order a little bit, Austin, as well. Grant Willimot about to cross the line now, looking to improve that time only slightly, setting a personal best of a 1:30.625. So small increase there for Grant, still finding some time around the track, and again looking like the dominant force out today. The Lambo performing fairly well. Daniel Duret now coming towards the finish line. They're entering sector 3, got a couple of corners left to do, and they've improved on their lap times as well. Should promote them up a couple of positions too. Austin, a quiet qualifying session, not been too many changes in the order, but like Grant really found the pace today. I mean, Willimot at the top there has not been contested so far for this entire session, and 2 minutes to go. You do have to wonder, does anyone have an answer to the Lambo? Because Daniel Duret coming across the line now, improving their time massively, puts them up into 4th place overall, 2nd in class.
Yeah, I mean, so it's Jesse Nares saying that Matt Lawrence has lost a ton of time in Sector 3. I'm starting to wonder if Lawrence is actually struggling around here. That's 2 seconds slower than Willimot on pole. That's significant, Tim, because I mean, this is the championship leader. This is the championship winner. Like, I mean, I don't like calling it like as if it's already done, but you know, mathematically, it is what it is.
It's done, yeah.
But it makes this race sound so uneventful. What it could be, it still could be amazing, you know. But no, to see Lawrence two whole seconds behind Willimot, and it's not a sight I'm used to seeing. It's actually it feels so strange, and I mean, they might just be taking it easy, you know. They might just be like, okay, well, final race of the season, let's just have a last to first challenge or something. I'm wondering if that's what they're doing. I wonder if that's what they've done to sort of back off in the final sector, just to kind of keep that time from going too far up and kind of ruining the fun there. But even then, you'd start from pits, right? There's other ways of doing it, and that's somebody else joining the server. That's one from 10 to 11 cars. So, wait, no, everyone's set a time. Wait, am I just being Tim? Am I missing something?
Someone was here earlier. That they just dipped out and came back in, but yes, we do have 11 cars out on the track today, and I'm wondering how, whether that is the case with Martin Lawrence here. I've got to admit though, Austin, like, it's possible they are maybe taking it easy a little bit. They're definitely not slowing down in the final sector. I mean, they're currently up on their time. Going a little bit wide there will invalidate the lap as well, but they are pushing that time. They have been trying to get it up as well. Like you said, it's a shame that they have won the season already, so in that case we won't be having any change in the championship win today. But by all means, it's still going to be a very interesting race, by the fact that Martin Lawrence, our championship leader, has been unable to get off that bottom spot in the standings right now. I mean, they've been trying to improve that lap time. We've seen them try and gain it as well, and validating it a couple of times from what looks like accident 2. Martin Lawrence, though, championship leader starting in P11. I mean, imagine this earlier on in the championship as well. It would have definitely blown things wide open. So everyone keep your eyes peeled today to see what everyone else on the track can do. Christopher Sheppen currently sitting in that P3. They are improving on their lap time as they go round. Well, I've not said it yet, but a big warm welcome to all of you that are joining us in the chat today. Right, Becky came in earlier and asking only 11 people. There are only 11 people out on the track. However, definitely doesn't mean the race is going to be boring by any means. There's room for so much entertainment. Grant Willemot being on that provisional pole for Streppen, improving into that second place will be enough to bunny hop Wilkinson, but not enough to take pole off Willemot in the Lamborghini. Willemot still out on track as well, down on their delta so far, but halfway through does have time to find some improvement. Most drivers now have finished their qualifying session. Only Willemot and Daly left out on track for the remainder of the session. You've got Wilkinson will be leading the field for the silver split and starting P3 overall. A great start for them. Will also give them an opportunity to take Joshua Lation in the championship, who is starting in that P3 slot in class. 7th overall as well. And Grant Willemot coming across the line for the final time in pole there. Does not have what it takes to improve on their lap, but will hold on to that pole position at 130.625 for them. Secures the Lambo the pole for the day. Verstappen starting second. Wilkinson in third. And John Daly about to cross the line will not improve, but starting 4th place for them. Austin, if you told me at the beginning of qualifying that our championship leader would be sitting at the bottom of the field, I would have guessed the same thing as you, that they are just sandbagging to do a first challenge. But you know what? I'm not so sure. I just don't think Martin Lawrence is quite as comfortable today as they want to be.
Well, looking at the spectre times here, which we actually have up on screen, you can see that they're half a second slower in the second sector. So that seems to be where they're losing all of the time. So it could be a car thing. I mean, we've seen the Aston, we've seen how strong it has been, throughout the entire season. It could just be that the car is starting to just sort of, if it's been bopped against, if it's had an update, and that update hasn't gone in the way of the Aston. Maybe it's had a little bit of a nerf, so we'll have to see during the race here, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely, we will, and that is the starting order you have for today's race. Grant Willemot leading up the pole, Verstappen in P2, and Wilkinson will be starting in P3. But the question on everyone's mind, Austin, is what are the standings looking like going into the final race of the Friday challenge? Well, Martin Lawrence starting P11 today has won the championship already, 139 points behind their belt. Secures them that safety win. Grant Willemot starting on pole position for today in P2 is under pressure from Christopher Streppen still. That position can still be taken. The Streppen in P3 overall with 93 points, tied with Jordan Daly. Starts P2, so keep your eyes on those two cars. The Ferrari and the Bentley today will be battling out for position. Ted Edwards, P5 overall in the championship with 58 points. Billy Octane coming in 6th with 52. And George Kwiatkowski also attending today's race, starting P10, is 7th place overall in the championship. Lagalante, P8. Quebec, P9. Van der Linde there was in P10. Yves Van Sand is rounding out the 11 drivers that have got points in the championship. Everyone else with a hyphen next to their name, Austin, has signed out and will no longer be fighting for points.
Yeah, and there's been a fair few of those, I can imagine. And P1, we have the silver split. We've got Joshua Lation with 144 points. Reese Wilkinson in P2 with 122. And the third Welsh representative, Ryan Daniels, with 104 points. Daniel Durrett in P4 with 81. Stefano Riccardo in P5 with 72. P6 is Simen Virtuous. P7 is Ibiza Racer. P8 Glenn Ovso. And P9 is Jack Mekov. And everybody else has signed out.
Yeah, so a lot of sign-outs towards the end of this championship, but still also a lot of places up for grabs. Austin, of course, Grant Wilmot will be wanting to defend that P2 from Christopher Sheppen, someone who we mentioned earlier, very likely to end up towards the top of the race today. Of course, Grant Wilmot, though, starting on that pole position, and their lap time was 4 tenths quicker than Verstappen as well. Looking very good on the defense for them too. Another fight in the standings that will be sorted out today on track, Austin, is the fight between Verstappen and John Daly. Both of them tied for 93 points in the championship. Verstappen starting P2 today, and John Daly in P4. Reese Wilkinson in the silver split, splitting up those two drivers. So John Daly, if they want to come out on top in the championship today, Austin, you'll see them hoping to clear Wilkinson as quickly as possible at the beginning of this race. You've also got the fight for that win in the silver split, currently held by Joshua Lation with 144 points. It is a huge gap for them today. However, we have seen stranger things happen, Austin, and it was a very good series at that. But today, the goal for Lation is just finish this race. Reese Wilkinson, their nearest competitor, starting on pole, more than not, just wants to showcase what they can do today and show that, look, I also am at the top of this championship. We are both looking for a promotion as well. And their teammate Daniel Durrett starting in P2. They are P4 in the championship overall. I've got to tell you now, Austin, Daniel Durrett and Joshua Lation, Reece Wilkinson as well, what a team they have been in Silver Split all season. Absolutely dominated that silver class, looking for that promotion at the end. And you know what? They have all earned it in their own rights, finishing in the podium across the season. What a brilliant team they have been.
Yeah, I mean they've just been dominant, haven't they? Really, you can't really you can't argue with what they've achieved and that how they've done it. You know, they've come in really strong, and where one of them might have had a bad race, like Lation at Alton Park. A little bit of misfortune here and there. He'd also been stopped with the penalty and involved in a few incidents. Another teammate on that side of things has also then been there to sort of pick up the slack. So, no, you can't argue with just how much they've achieved. And I know we pulled Lation in for an interview after race one. And they said, they take some time out and wanted to kind of get a silver win before being promoted up to pro. I think they're well on their way.
Absolutely. I mean, today looks very, very good for them, starting in that P7, and it's third place overall in class. So looking like another podium for them as well, possibly. But I mean, the whole championship, like you said, they've done a phenomenal job. Did have a bit of a squirrely mess over at Alton Park, finishing P6 in class, so only scoring themselves 18 points there. But still, a great championship as a whole from Joshua Lation and the rest of the team over there that are driving the Ferrari in this championship. And you know what, Austin, I think it's got to be said, this championship as a whole has been a lot of chaos, I think, for a lot of drivers who we expect to see consistent across the board, maybe had a couple of races which haven't gone their way. The only person who can say that they have had a great championship from start to finish is Martin Lawrence. They've won the first 3 rounds. They came second in the previous 2. They are the only driver that can say that they have had the perfect championship so far. But today, looking like things might change for them, starting at the back of the field. We'll have to climb through the other 10 drivers that are facing them on grid today if they want to finish on that podium for the final race of the season. Coming through Sector 3, Austin, to be honest, I don't know what to expect today. So many drivers out on track that we don't know how they perform across this track as a whole. It's, of course, a new track for the Friday Champ, a new track in ACC as well. But you've seen it once before in RCI in the Night Out Championship. But I've got to say, today, Austin, it could go any way in terms of the drivers on track. I don't even know who to put my money on. The only thing I do know is that Grant Wilmot looking very comfortable at the front there.
It certainly looks like it, but again, what's the race pace of that car like? What I want to know before we round into the final corner across the start finish is, if you're Lawrence, do you send it? Like, turn on, just deep, just brake nice and deep, trying to make around, try and make up a few positions. Do you just lick the stamp,
It's an interesting question. I mean, it is a fairly fast left-hander at the beginning. Martin Lawrence would have to go for a bit of a send and really keep up the momentum there in order to gain a couple of places. And again, like we said, despite the fact it's a small field today, that is 11 very competitive drivers across the season that we have seen so far. But we will find out shortly as the lights now have gone green. A great start for Grant Wilmore, able to completely cover off Verstappen at the beginning here. Further down the field, though, you can see Wilkinson trying to hold off John Daly, going through the left-hander turn 1 there. Looks like Daly may have just fallen behind into that P4 slot. Wilkinson will hold on to that P3 for another day. Daniel Durrett looking for the outside here of Ted Edwards. Will have to tuck in behind for now. Has lost a couple of positions at the beginning here, falling down to P8. Joshua Lation still sitting in that P7, able to hold off half of the field there. We'll be following through, and now you'll see that as the places filter through, we'll get to see who has held onto what here. And Jack Mekov, an amazing start for them. Started P8 up into P5 for the number 21 Porsche. And Daniel Durrett, who started in that P6 position, Austin, has gone for a spin and now fallen to the back of the field. Not a great start for them, but a great start for Jack Mekov. A great start for Grant Wilmore as well, able to hold on to that P1. Fairly safe start across the field, but already a lot of fights breaking out, Austin.
Yeah, well, I also saw, was it Lawrence as well, off the track and, going quite wide. I don't know if that was to avoid the, that's Verstappen sideways too, the Bentley not happy through there. I do wonder if that was Lawrence just making a bit of a mistake, or whether they were just trying to avoid the number 30 Lamborghini of Durrett. But I did see him take to the outfield. So, Christoph Verstappen chasing down Grant Wilmore. The order hasn't changed too much, aside from a few places towards the back. Martin Lawrence in P10, they appear to have lost. I did see they made up a few positions. They'd kind of lost some. Ted Edwards defending off the likes of Lation. It's going to be kind of scrappy.
Absolutely. Jesse Lee enjoying being behind the cameras for once, has announced that they're going to be taking a drink at the beginning of this race, not having to be the one shouting over the commentary. But for the rest of the drivers, all eyes will be facing the track right now. Grant Wilmore pulling a huge gap on Verstappen very early on, was a second at the beginning, has now gone back into 8/10, but Grant Wilmore still looking very dominant today. Joshua Lation picking up some speed, trying to find a way through Ted Edwards as they are trying to hold off Billy Octane as well. But in a bit of a pro gap right now is Joshua Lation. Splitting up the pro drivers, will be looking to try and clear Daly and Edwards to bring the fight back up to the front of the field. Wilkinson holding on to that P1 in class. Jack Mekov, a new driver into this championship, fighting in that P2 right now, looking to gain a position as well, putting the pressure on Wilkinson ahead. But Billy Octane has had a fairly good champ for them, Austin. We saw them come in they've been here since the beginning, really had a great start in the first couple of seasons, a couple of mid-seasons where maybe not performing where they expected to, but now back up in that top 10 where they want to be, and has had a great championship all round so far, finishing P6 overall, and has had a good couple of top 10 finishes, almost finishing on that podium over at Paul Ricard, just placing 4th outside of that top 3. So a great season overall for Billy Octane, now finding himself in that P8. Does have to clear Joshua Lation as well, but it's nice to see some of the more RCI veterans, Austin, returning to the scene and performing well as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have fan favourites, aren't you? Names that you kind of recognise and kind of start to hold on to. I mean, in Formula 1, you look at Alonso, he's incredibly fast driver, incredibly capable, but also going to be likeable at the same time. You said Vettel, they went kind of the same way. And I think it's really neat that we kind of have personalities that you can... And, it's kind of, it's really heartwarming in a way that you sort of like... You have that same sort of thing in sim racing. We have people in the community that we can kind of look up to the same way. We have these fan favourites and, people we can kind of look up to. Jesse Lee might hear there saying that it just looks like Lawrence is just running quite slow at the moment. So I'm just wondering if that Aston is struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they started at the back of the field. We did question, Austin, you did mention maybe it's sandbagging moment. They're going to do a last to first challenge for the final race, but overall, the Aston Martin not looked too fast today. I'm wondering if Lawrence not quite comfortable on this track as maybe some of the other drivers are. Maybe he has not had a chance to practice on it so much since its release a couple of months ago. But the other thing also is just starting at the back of the field can be tough in its own right. Billy Octane here having to defend against Kwiatkowski, looking towards the inside of the corner there. Billy Octane, though, able to keep the momentum around the outside. The Porsche just about able to put on, making contact with Kwiatkowski there. Will see himself off the track. Martin Lawrence almost going straight into the back as well of the Ferrari. Most likely will gain a position there too. It depends entirely on what Kwiatkowski's plan here is in terms of returning that position to Octane. I'm not 100% sure whether that was a pointing fingers fault there for the Ferrari driver, but what we do know is that the stewards will be watching that. Of course, today's race will be live stewarded by our very own steward team. They will be watching all of the incidents that happen across the track and deciding on the penalties accordingly. A big thank you to all of them for dedicating their time to watching this race. Awesome. It's hard to tell there, but I think it more so looked like Octane just cutting back across the track, catching the front of Kwiatkowski. And you know what? I don't think we need to point fingers at this one. Racing instant, in my opinion.
Yeah, if you want close racing, the cars are going to get close, and every now and again, misjudgments are going to be made. And I mean, I don't know if the audience can hear Jesse at the moment.
They absolutely can't, but they should be able to. Jesse Lee today said to me in the box, Austin, they did not want to be heard out on track. John Daly, by the way, making up a position, going down the inside there, up into P4, taking over Jack McCobb, closing the gap that was then extended to Verstappen. But Austin, I mean, we were talking to Jesse before the race started today, said they wanted absolutely no part in the commentary of this race, has since been very vocal over the broadcasting tool, everybody at home. So maybe able to convince them later to shine their voice to the world that everyone loves. So John Daly. Oh my gosh. Jesse not happy with Ted Edwards there, going for a bit of a wide curve on the corner. Is able to hold it together. But Austin fights up and down the field. I mean, you got a couple of drivers. We said Jack Mekov earlier joining this race for the final race of this championship, running in P2 currently in the number 21 Porsche there, doing a good job at showing what they can do so far. I mean, for them, if they manage to finish in fighting pace of the rest of the team, Wilkinson, Lation and Duret, they have showcased what they can do in this championship. Because I mean, at this point, I know we've got two splits here. You might as well have them all as pro drivers at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not sort of, you know, they're not really stretched out too far.
Oh, what's happened to Daly?
That's a 15-second time penalty, my friend. And I wonder if that had something to do with Duret at the start, because Duret did loop, and I don't know if that was on the card or if Lawrence was involved or if Daly was also involved. But that's Daly throwing in the towel right there. Yeah, it's one of those. I always. Do you know what, Tim? This reminds me of. Do you remember commentating with Christian and Christian getting very vocal in the
Oh, I remember.
Because we can hear Jesse, but apparently you guys can't. So.
I think Jesse, maybe one of the most vocal broadcasters we have ever had. Sounds like he needs to be on the commentary, but very excited about the podium is Jesse. Absolutely loving the fact that Grant Willamore still leading the field at the front there. I mean, you've got to be 2 seconds ahead on Christopher Shepard. Austin, there are not many people in this championship who have held a candle to Christopher Shepard. We've had some surprising fights this season. Joshua Lation earlier on at Paul Ricard fighting off Christopher Shepard as well. But I mean, Grant Willamore here, 2 seconds on the 747. If that's you, I mean, if that was me, I'm going to my friends later on saying, guess what I did? That is bragging rights at this point in time. Grant Willamore, fastest lap of the race, pole position, 2.7 seconds on a driver we know is fast. What a performance from them today.
It is. Can it be a Grand Slam as well? Can, you know, you just lead every lap of the race and then get the win too? So, I mean, it's actually looking to be quite amazing, and it looks like they're pulling away from this Shepard too. So, So, yeah, no, it's looking great for Willemot right now. Again, it could just be the Lamborghini as well. It's really strong, but that's also not fair to say because Willemot's also had such a consistent season too. It's actually, again, it's just all coming together for them in this final round.
Absolutely. Looking at the standings, lost another driver as well, down to 9. I can't remember who has just ducked out. Billy Octane's still there. Ted Edwards is still there. Martin Lawrence, the championship winner, ducking out of this race, decided they do not have the pace to keep up with everyone else today. Noah Austin, imagine Valencia earlier on this season. Might be seeing a bit of a different story later on the championship here. Maybe a nervous Martin Lawrence, as they clearly do not have the pace around the second Spanish track that we have on the calendar. Joshua Lation, though, again, another dominant person in this championship. We used to see Lation at the top of the silver class by quite a margin as well. Currently only P3 overall. One of those drivers is new to this championship as well, only competing in this final race. Joshua Lation just trying to hold their own right now against the pros. Looks like Wilkinson, the Spinala Motorsport driver, to come out on top at the moment. A couple of surprises up and down the field. Honestly, Austin, I did not see this being the order today. I would think you were crazy if you told me this would be the running order of today's race.
Yeah, and I'm struggling to put my finger on as to why it's even a thing. Is it just final round? Things are already kind of locked in place. You know, no one's trying quite as hard. Has it been that there's been other events on as well elsewhere, and there's no one's really put the time into practice? Is it car bop? Is it just drivers, you know, just kind of not feeling with it today? There's so many reasons as to why this could be the case, but well, I suppose to use the saying, it is what it is. So, I mean, it's hard to say.
It is what it is. The comments from broadcaster Jesse Lee out on the track. You can say all you want, Jesse. The more you talk, the more I'm going to call you out on everything you say. But Joshua Lation looking for a way through Ted Edwards right now. Can't quite find any windows to look through, but Ted Edwards on the defense now. Will they be able to hold off the Silver Split driver? This is a fight, Austin, that we've seen multiple times across the season. Joshua Lation with just about everyone out on track has been very feisty as a whole and usually comes out on top. Again, they're looking towards the outside, but Ted Edwards, I mean, what a defense they have been doing so far in this race. We're only 15 minutes in. We have 47 minutes left to go, but so far they have held solid against someone who we know is really good at pulling off overtakes.
Yeah, that's just it. Feels like it's only a matter of time. And as I say that, that's Lation pulling up alongside Edwards, and Edwards managing to close the door going into the apex there. So yeah, Lation having to sort of line up again and just try to kind of plan and move out. Really, Edwards isn't going to let this one go. And something else I've noticed, Tim, is that a new livery from Edwards there? I mean, I know they've run the pink and the blue before, but the gold, is that specially for this last race?
You're putting me on the spot here, Austin. I have no idea what Ted Edwards' livery is looking at.
No, Lation's livery.
Yeah, I think the gold is new. Now that you mention it, because they definitely have black one side. There's the pink strip down the middle, which is their Spinala color. Because obviously you got Wilkinson. You know what, Jesse, fix a Wilkinson real quick. I want to see their livery, so then we can get an idea of what Joshua's has looked like across the season. Yeah, no, Austin, you're not crazy. It's absolutely black and white with a stripe down the middle. So yeah, Joshua Lation taking the golden side of the car. Do you think that's a special livery to say I'm winning this championship whether you like it or not?
I think it is. I think it is, and I really like that. I noticed it, and it was like, you know what, I'm going to call that out, because that's special, you know. I know this championship means so much to Lation. He said it on multiple occasions, and it's finally come to the point where they have the chance to close it up, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Kieskowski coming in with a 15-second time penalty as well, so the steward's quite hard at work, and I'm not sure what that'll be for.
Speaking of stewards and being hard at work, we have an incident on lap 1, turn 8, involving the 197 and car number 6. There's a 15-second penalty for car 197 for taking out the number 6. Position was returned though, so wasn't a drive-through scored for them, and then incident on lap 4, turn 4, involving the number 3 and the 212. 15-second penalty for car 212. That is, of course, Kwiatkowski, who we saw on our screen just now. It was avoidable contact from Kwiatkowski, leading to the number 3 getting pushed off the track. And number 3, that will be Billy Octane, that was involved in that incident as well. Of course, the other incident you mentioned on lap 1, Austin, you called it, John Daly there, getting caught up in an accident, scoring himself a 15-second penalty, and then retiring the car because of it. A shame for them as well, because they were competing with Verstappen for points today. Did get caught off, though, by both Wilkinson and Jack McCov. Because of that, decided that they couldn't continue with this race. A real shame for that, because that was looking to be a very intense battle. But Kwiatkowski picking up 15 seconds, I mean, I don't want to be the one to say it like this. Might not take them to the back of the grid at this rate. They could still potentially be fighting for that P9 if they continue this race with that 15-second penalty, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, it's always there's always something to play for, isn't there? So especially this early into the race, we're only 15 minutes in, so there's no point in just throwing in the towel, really. I mean, it's especially if you've got the pace, just try to take it as a recovery drive, make the most of it. But yeah, no, Lation's still struggling to get past Ed. I say struggling, I think it's just more Edwards is just, he's so good in defensive positions. I mean, I know we kind of, RCI staff, we kind of like poke fun every now and again, but you have to give credit where credit's due. Edwards is has had a really good kind of couple of races in this season, and I mean, there's a bit of a train forming, but at the same time, that goes to show they're struggling to get by, and that means that Ted is doing his job correctly when it comes to defending.
Absolutely, they are. 43 minutes left for them to defend that position. Of course, the race today is an hour long. There's a mandatory pit stop in the middle. Pit window opens in 8 minutes time when there's 35 minutes left in the race, and it closes 10 minutes after that as well. In that mandatory pit stop, teams do not have to take a fresh set of tyres. However, they do have to refuel the car. I believe stationary for 25 seconds at least is the rule for the pit stops, Austin. So an hour-long race today. A lot of time for these drivers holding positions. I'm looking at drivers like Ted Edwards in particular having to defend for that whole long, and now Joshua Lation looking for a way through, pushing pressure down the inside there. Contact again between the two drivers, but Lation holds the inside line, will push their way through Ted Edwards. Position gain for Lation. They can now turn their attention to the silver split drivers ahead. Mekov and Wilkinson batting out just ahead of them. But just behind Ted Edwards, you've also got Kwiatkowski in this fight as well. Probably won't put up as much of a fight here, Austin, with that 15-second time penalty. You never know, may look for a way through, try and put some distance on Octane and Duret behind as well. As for now though, Lation, 5-second gap for them to close to their nearest competitors. Absolutely not off the cards for now.
No, not at all. I mean, nothing is off the cards at this stage in the race, as we were just saying. And well, I mean, Later will be trying to close up the gap to Jack, but yeah, no, Kwiatkowski will be wanting to try to make it around Ted Edwards. Tim, question: the penalty that has to be served outside of a pit stop, right? So you can't just park the car for 15 seconds and then the pit stop happens and then you can be on your way. You have to serve the two separately. No, you can serve the time penalties. You can serve during your pit stop. You can just stay stationary for an extra 15 seconds. If it was a stop and go, they would have to serve it separately. Same with a drive-through, has to be served separately, come down the pits. But the 15-second time penalties that are handed out, you just stay stationary for an extra 15 seconds in the pits there. So Kwiatkowski still very much able to gain some positions in this race. If they pit now, for example, will be up into that P8 slot, still ahead of Daniel Duret. And now looking further up the field, Jack Mekov, their debut race in this championship, up onto that final podium slot overall. The MDK Motorsports number 21 seeing themselves now turn their attention to Christoph Verstappen ahead as well, able to find their way through Wilkinson. This is first place in class as well. Austin, I tell you what, Jack Mekov, if they come into this championship, they win in this silver class. I mean, again, these are
the three drivers that we have in Silver Glass alongside them right now, they're all drivers that we are talking about promoting at the end of the season. Jack Mekov, that would be some insurance to say, I can beat these guys on pace. If you choose to come into Friday Champion the next season with the exact same pace, they'll be looking at a promotion as well. So it will be a great sense of security for them to say, I finished ahead of all of my competitors today.
Jesse, again, once again, thank you for the input. But yeah, no, I think you're right. It's a lot of insurance for Mekov to just kind of come into and do this, but at the same time, it is just one race, and we've got drivers like Willemot. We've kind of praised the consistency as to how how well they might not finish on the very top step of the podium every single race, but they've been like not far off. They've been towards the top of the field, so. Those consistent finishes are really important. If Mekov does win this, coming back next season and proving they can do it again and again, that's what's going to be needed. And that is exactly what, when we talk about the likes of Lawrence and Verstappen, that's the sort of consistency that, we're talking about. So there's still a lot to prove, but at the same time, the pace does seem to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Pace seems to be there. We've yet to see what their consistency is like across the season, of course. Those of you that know me and Kevin Boss, another commentator at RCI, will know that Jack Mekov is actually one of our teammates usually in the Endurance Championship. So I can say with some certainty, Austin, they do have a fair bit of consistency behind them. That being said, of course, a lot of things come into play across the championship, and you do have to wonder what their pace is like consistently overall as well. They've put a lot of time and effort into Valencia since it's been released. One of their favourite tracks actually at the moment as well, so very excited to showcase what they can do today. Someone who we've not talked about a lot, Austin, today, who no reason other than the fact that there is nothing to talk about with them outside of how good a job they have been doing. Grant Willemot secured pole position today at Valencia, has the fastest lap of a race, which is a time of a 1:31.517 for those who are interested, and has an 11-second gap on Christoph Verstappen as well. Grant Willemot, I imagine right now, has got their hands on the pedals, their feet on the wheel, and they are taking it as easy as they possibly can around the track right now. A phenomenal performance for them today. Christoph Verstappen, by the way, losing time to Jack Mekov. Do we see a debut race, Austin, where Jack Mekov takes on a veteran in RCI racing, someone who we are used to seeing win these races? Jack Mekov looks like they're about to bring the fight to them. I mean, look at your screens right now. That was gap only a second splitting the Bentley and the Porsche from each other.
Yeah, I mean, Verstappen's really got to start thinking about beating this one off if he's going to keep that position. And the gap is closing, and keeping hold of that P2 overall is going to be really important. But look at that gap close up. Oh, just look at that. It seems like Mekov just got past Wilkinson and just got unleashed. So what's going on here?
Yeah, Mekov putting on the pressure already. 5 tenths splitting up the two drivers. Austin, I mean, we've not seen a lot of racing at Valencia. The track came out 2 months ago with the latest addition to DLC in ACC. So 2 months, I mean, it's a lot of time for people to get used to the track. You can see today there is a clear deficit, I'd say, in those that are comfortable and have clearly been racing this track quite a lot. Those that maybe have not had a chance to put out too much practice here as well. But for us as well, it's a brand new track. I mean, we don't really know. With a lot of tracks, Paul Ricard, Barcelona at the beginning of the season, we know where we're going to see these overtakes happening. Valencia, we don't know that. There are plenty of opportunities for drivers to really look for new ways to overtake here at Valencia. So I'm excited to see what Jack Mekov does on the approach to Verstappen here. Do they look for a fight maybe coming through the curvy section, or is it just going to be a case of getting some slipstream going down the long start finish straight? Seeing as they're driving a Porsche against a Bentley, I'm going to say they're not looking for a slipstream overtake here. Again, the Porsche has had an upgrade. It is better in the straight line now. but still not quite where it wants to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, I get why Verstappen has the number, the 747, because the car is huge, and honestly, it may as well be made by Boeing. That's especially in comparison to the Porsche. The straight line speed is just it's just better, but I mean, it's still not, you know, the straight line speed of the Bentley's still never been its absolute strong point. And look at the difference in line there. Mekov taking a nice early apex, and Verstappen taking quite a deep one um, in a later apex. And gets the power as soon as they can. So pit windows have been open for 20 seconds as well. And it looks like Verstappen's just struggling with the back end of that car. It just does not seem planted at all.
Yeah, Verstappen really looks like they struggled today's race. 12-second gap to Grant Willemore ahead. Now under pressure from Jack Mekov, who, let's be real, Austin, they've dominated the silver class of today and has had an outstanding first race on the field as well. 4 tenths splitting up 2 drivers. What does Jack Mekov do here in terms of looking for an overtake? The pit window, everyone, is now open, by the way. 10 minutes on that, and of course 9 minutes left as well, because we're already a minute in. And a couple of different strategies we've seen so far across the season, Austin. Of course, at the beginning, very much a case of strap on a new set of tyres, because you need it in order to last until the end of the race. However, of course, with the most recent hot fixes to ACC, maybe the case that actually you can extend that stint a little bit longer. Guys can go a lot more longer out on track now today. And Jack Mekov already into the pits, Austin. They cannot last on track.
No, it might just be that they were running a light fuel load on the car. We'll have to see, though. I mean, light fuel doesn't really make sense when traditionally we've seen drivers take like 1 or 2 liters of fuel at the stop. So, I mean, I'm not sure. Just Mekov just seems rapid right now. So, it's a little bit crazy going on whilst the pit stops are going on. I mean, we don't know if the under or the overcut's going to be worth it, but we'll find out very shortly.
Absolutely, of course. 3 drivers already in the pits. Mekov, Edwards, and Billy Octane filling themselves up before heading back onto the track. Now, like I said, hard to tell what the strategy is here, because across the season as a whole, it's differed every single time. Of course, undercut has worked out towards the beginning. Overcut then worked out a little bit better in the most recent races. And I think in ACC in general, we were talking to Joshua Lation. We've talked to him twice this season, once at the beginning, once in the middle as well. And they said very hard to tell what the strategy is in ACC at the moment, especially with the new update. It's hard to know where these cars place and what the best thing to do is. Because, I mean, Joshua Lation, Austin, they're even talking about changing the tyres still in these races. We said at the beginning of the season, pretty much everyone was changing the tyres because they fell off so quickly. We've seen some tyre changes later on in the season as well that have paid off too. So hard to tell what the best strategy is for today. I imagine most drivers will not be taking a fresh set of tyres. That being said though, Austin, I can tell you now, Billy Octane's pit stop 8 seconds quicker than both Ted Edwards and Jack Mekov. Maybe Billy Octane not taking a fresh set of tyres, and the other 2 did, so we'll see what pays off here. I imagine if Jack Mekov took a fresh set of tyres and Verstappen reportedly has not taken a fresh set of tyres, I mean, Jack Mekov, they're going to be chasing down that Bentley with a lot more pace. However, the gap will be bigger when it comes out. Do you reckon Jack Mekov can close that gap? If the rest of the season is anything to go by, it could be very close at the end.
You know, I think there's a potential that they can. I mean, they've shown that they do have pace. You know, it's 3 seconds to Duret, but Duret also needs to pit too. Kwiatkowski is 9 seconds ahead, so there's a chance that Mekov could get a little bit of clear air just before or even after Kwiatkowski. And with clear air, you know, they can just kind of get the hammer down and do what they need to do to sort of make up those spaces back. So it's going to be a fight towards the end, I think. But I do think Mekov can catch up. I mean, there's still half an hour remaining.
Yeah, like you said, Jack Mekov got a bit of a climb to do. Now we'll be looking for a way to open the back door of Verstappen and find a way through as well. Martin Lawrence joining us in the chat, everybody. Apologise for having to quit, and Yeah, like we were saying, Austin, they said no setup, no time for prep, and they didn't even know the track only got 20 minutes to drive around as well. So, in the interest of not causing a crash, decided to bail on this one. Martin Lawrence, I mean, congratulations on the champ as a whole. You've certainly earned the win in this championship. Your performance at the beginning of the season and the whole way through has been absolutely amazing. If you would like to hop into the booth, Martin Lawrence, we will be happy to interview you later on as well. You know what? If you want to hop on at some point, as close to the end of the race as possible, we'll pull you in here and get you a driver interview on the championship as a whole. So far, and pit stops still filtering out right now. Wilkinson serve their pit stop. Will be back out on track. Work out whether it looks like they've taken a fresh set of tyres as well. So interesting, Austin. We said as they approached the pit, probably wouldn't be taking a fresh set of tyres. Everyone so far but two have taken a fresh set of tyres. So we'll see how that pays off at the end of the race. I'm thinking maybe the correct call here.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you said, like no one can seem to agree on what the actual strategy is in terms of pit stops at this point, especially for a sprint race. I know traditionally we've seen that not taking tires is the way forward. I know that when the update first came out, we had severe graining issues on the tires, which might have affected that. But as far as I'm aware, those problems have been patched. So I'd imagine if a tire has to last, you know, for multiple stints in endurance races, I don't see any reason why realistically they wouldn't last. They wouldn't last the length of a sprint race like this. Was that Wilkinson getting a little bit hairy on the gravel there? But no, I don't see any reason why, you know, changing tires wouldn't necessarily be any quicker. But there's a difference between being, you know, just basically being quicker and being able to uphold that sort of speed, and that's a drive-through for Mekov.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that is going to be picking up track limit warnings. And we were mentioning earlier how speed is one thing, but being consistent is another. And of course, consistency, people tend to think about getting into crashes, maybe not having pace across the season. Another thing that plays a huge part in, oh no, they've just picked up a stop and go 30 as well. That is so unfortunate for Jack Mekov. Has really been piled hard at the end of this race here at the halfway mark. Stop and go 30 seconds. That is going to be unfortunate end of the race for Jack Mekov. And they were looking at a P2 finish here, honestly. They had so much pace in that car. They were absolutely tearing up the tyres as well. Had to take a fresh set to whip them on two. An unfortunate end of the race for them. A drive-through followed by a stop and go. That will be a drive-through for track limits, Austin. And then a stop and go 30 seconds for speeding in the pit lane as well. For those of you new to ACC, you can get free track warnings for gaining time outside of the track. And on your fourth time, you get a drive-through penalty gifted to you by the game. Will not be gifted by the stewards. Billy Octane there went for a bit of a ride along the curves, looked very skittish as well. And then, of course, if you speed across the pit lane marker, going too fast into the pits or coming out of the pits too fast as well, you can get a stop and go of 30 seconds. Or maybe slightly less depending on what speed you're going through. But Jack Mekov really being hit with it hard at the halfway mark of the race. Austin, unfortunate for Jack Mekov, who today was just looking so great out on the track.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, keeping up with the likes of Verstappen and closing in on them, that's, you know, it's not a light feat, you know, to kind of do. You know, not a lot of drivers can actually do that. But no, I mean, they were doing it, even if it was just for this race, and it's kind of all unraveled a little bit for them. Stop go 30, they're currently in the pits serving that. I mean, maybe, you know, we've said it before, you know, at this point in the race, there's no point in throwing in the towel, you know, just kind of come back and see what you can do. They're already a lap on Duret, and I believe Duret, number 30, looking at the track map, number 30 is still out on track. They've just come across the line now, so, you know, there's always something to play for at this point in time. You know, there's not a lot of cars on the field, but everyone's like so spaced out. You know, you can always set yourself a target to catch the guy up ahead and just try and take that position, and that could be a challenge in and of itself, whether it's first place or 10th.
Kevin Boss extended a team invite to Jack Mekov earlier on today. Imagine maybe looking at maybe reconsidering that and taking it back off them. I am kidding, but of course, like you said, it's unfortunate for Jack Mekov. Very very fast pace. Had the pace today to be keeping up with the pros. I mean, we've joked about it, but it is one thing to say that you are facing people in a higher split than you. It is another thing to say I raced Verstappen and survived. Not in a bad way, in a way that's like able to keep up, maybe even get the overtake of Verstappen, a veteran race in RCI at this point. Absolutely phenomenal out on track, has so much pace, amazing at overtaking, absolutely amazing at defending as well. To be able to say that you are a driver that was able to take on Verstappen would be a huge shout of confidence to your name. But yeah, Jack Mekov will be joining us in the next championship, Austin. What I want to see out of them, though, is more consistency. Not picking up that drive-through penalty, not picking up so many track cuts as well. And then again, if you do pick up a drive-through penalty, not gaining the stop and go afterwards too. I genuinely imagine we could be seeing a potential frontline fighter in future Friday champs. I do think Jack Mekov is a driver to watch, someone who could possibly hit the pro scene as well. But just like you said at the beginning of the race, it's about that consistency as well as the pace. They need to make sure that they are able to keep up that pace for a whole race, as well as not picking up side penalties too.
Yeah, that's just kind of it. You got to kind of just kind of control the temperament. You can have the pace, but if you don't have the attitude for it, you can't get too cocky with it. You got to just sort of kind of know when to rein it in, and just kind of know when the situation is know when the situation's kind of running away from you. Obviously getting the drive through is bad enough, but then obviously be able to stay calm and actually serve the penalty, and being able to stay calm and actually just serve the penalty without incurring further incident. That's kind of the important thing. And now the tables have kind of turned, because that is Verstappen onto the back of Mekov, and Mekov about to be lapped by Verstappen, who, as we pointed out, didn't take tires. So I mean, getting back to that position for Jack, it's not looking like it's going to be all that much fun.
No, like you said, already been caught up by Verstappen here. According to our broadcaster yesterday, he doesn't think a single car took tyres at all, which means that all of these stops, we're seeing some very differing times on our pit stop analysis here, Austin. This is just some drivers doing a fast pit stop, others a lot slower onto the pit box. I mean, there is 10-second gaps between some of these pit times. You do not want to be at the higher end of that. You need to be in and out as quick as you can. No dilly-dollying around in these pit stops for the drivers. So yeah, everyone on an old set of tyres. Maybe that's why we see Jack Mekov still under pressure from Verstappen, because you'd imagine if they put on a fresh set, they would be pulling away from Verstappen here in the later stage of this race. But yeah, according to Jesse, everyone on an old set of tyres makes sense, I think, looking at the pace we're getting around the track for a lot of these drivers. Grant Willamot still on the front row of the grid, still putting out the fastest laps at the front of the field as well. Christoph Verstappen, 14-second gap to them. Probably not having too much to worry about either, as it's an 8-second gap to Reese Wilkinson behind them as well. A quiet podium day on the field, but the Octane looking to bring some pressure onto that podium. Heading the back of Wilkinson here. Joshua Lation lurking in the background as well. This race, Austin, not done dusted, especially for the silver split class. We could still see a change in the race winner in the silver class of the field.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. I mean, it's such a I mean, the guys at the top of silver, they are so talented, in that we've seen that consistency across all season. I think you said it best, Tim. They are in the running for a promotion up to pro at the end of this, because I mean, God, they've earned it. Like, it's results like this. Wilkinson has just put in so much as well. I mean, Lation, we've kind of waxed lyrical about for all season now since the first race. So that promotion is definitely earned. And yeah, but at the same time, you've got a big cluster of cars down there. If Octane can clear Wilkinson, then Lation gets the opportunity to sort of capitalise on maybe even a mistake being made here between between Octane and Wilkinson. You know, that will open the door wide open. So, you know, I mean, I know the likes of Durant and Mekov are a little bit far back now, but don't rule anything out. I mean, if Mekov can go from P2 or fighting for P2 all the way down to P9 and back up again, anything can happen.
The Spinala Motorsport team has a 1-2 lockout in this race. Their third member, Ryan Daniels, hasn't attended today, but in the last three races, in the last 3 races, Austin, the silver class podium has consisted of Joshua Lation, Reese Wilkinson, and Ryan Daniels, all driving for that Spinala Motorsport team. I'm going to be honest, I am a huge fan of that team, and I would argue that all 3 of them deserve the promotion at the end of the season. That they have each proved that they can hold their own amongst the pros at the top of the field as well. So definitely an opportunity for them to be promoted. Billy Octane going wide there, doesn't gain a position on Reese Wilkinson, now under pressure from Joshua Lation yet again. This is a repeat of something we had earlier on in the race now, but Joshua Lation not able to quite get the pace and momentum out of that final corner. Will fall behind for turn 1 here. Quite far behind at that as well, as Billy Octane able to pull that gap a lot bigger, almost making contact between the 2 cars for 4th there. Lation looks towards the outside, can't find anything. Octane again covering that gap. Very skittish though in the portion. Lation yet again looking for a move here down towards the inside. This time it seems to get it done and dusted. Octane just no momentum coming out of the corner there. Lation up into P4 and now turns their attention to their teammate Reese Wilkinson at the front of the silver class. Austin, we're in for a fight for P1 in silver here, and across the season as a whole, let's you know what, let's pit teammates against each other. Reese Wilkinson and Joshua Lation, who comes out on top?
I mean, oh no, that's a tough one, Tim. I mean, statistically, you got to put your money on Lation, though, right? We're at the point in the race now where, you know, there's still long enough to be able to catch up, and it's hard to kind of hold on to a position, but we're so far through the race that we are, in reality, very nearly done. You know, we're only really realistically, what, 7 or 8 laps from the end, so it's a really good opportunity for Lation just to kind of try and put the pressure on for long enough to try and make a late move, like a late move for the win. But no, at the same time, I can also imagine this stage in the race there is also this stage of the championship even there's also even more respect for the 2 teammates, you know, that there would be otherwise.
Yeah, we know Wilkinson does well under pressure too, of course. Looking back at the races in this championship, Joshua Lation won at Barcelona, Paul Ricard, and last week at the Nürburgring. Reese Wilkinson, though, has a fair share of race wins under their belt as well. Of course, they won at Alton Park week 2, then Zandvoort on the week 4 as well. So another win for them would see them in contention for the championship points. And you know what, Orson, actually looking here at their race finishes, I think the only difference between Wilkinson and Lation here will be the fact that Wilkinson finished P3 at Paul Ricard, so a very close championship from these 2 at the front. I'll put myself under the bus here. I think Wilkinson has this race, honestly. And looking towards the front of the field, Verstappen picks up a drive-through penalty. Austin, if this turns into a stop and go, you may see a fight between them and Jack Mekov later on in this race, as well as, oh no, Christopher Verstappen, they're going very wide out of the final corner, having to duck out of the way of Wilkinson onto the start-finish straight. But Verstappen absolutely will not have... Oh no, they're parking it as well, going over to the right-hand side. You wouldn't go that far if you weren't planning on stopping. Christopher Verstappen retiring from this race. Just clearly decided that there's nothing in it for them anymore. Gonna take a look at the standings here, see if anyone left on the track can take that 3rd place position off Verstappen. I don't think it's possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I said to them I'm gonna call them out if they continue to talk. Jesse Lee saluting at the fact that Verstappen has gone into the pits there. Very happy with how that turned out, clearly. You know what, Austin? I think it's about time we heard from Jesse Lee himself. Jesse, unmute your mic and give us a little... Oh, it's not set up! You told me it was! We'll try and hear from Jesse Lee about their thoughts on this race. They can at least give it in the YouTube chat as well, but expect to hear Jesse Lee's thoughts of the race as well. They've crossed over the threshold for me of how many times they're allowed to talk in the broadcasting booth before I tell them that they have to give their opinion on the race so far. But another retiree of this race. We started out with 11, Austin. We're down to just 8, and to be honest with you, that is one thing you have to give Jack Mekov. They could have retired after the drive-through penalty. They could have retired after the stop and go for 30 seconds. They are still in this race, even though they are 2 laps down at the back here. 23 seconds of Daniel Duret. At this point, they are just trying to showcase what they can do. Maybe even able to not pick up a fight for position, but maybe just be able to have a little bit of a scrap on track with someone if they're able to close that gap. We'll see what they can do. But for now, Jack Mekov, sticking with this race, will earn points to go towards their championship here.
Yeah, I mean, catching up to Duret is not impossible. It's 20 seconds, you know. It's doable, and you'll never know if you don't try. So it's always worth just kind of putting the hammer down. But with Verstappen parking it, then there were 8. There's only 8 cars on track right now, and yet it's still quite tight. Like, if you look at the track map, it feels like a bit of a practice session, honestly. But no, again, we've got some really good fights coming up, and Lation coming from the outside of Wilkinson. Wilkinson holding off on the inside, giving space on the outside of the track, but no, Lation having the later apex here, and will be able to get the power down sooner, but gets kind of like almost nosed off a little bit onto the outside there. So that'll be Wilkinson holding on to P1 at least for now.
13 minutes left in this race, and you know what I haven't done yet, Austin? Something that I usually do very early on in the race. I haven't mentioned our partners who have helped make today possible. Look at the bottom left hand side of the screen, you will see them cycling through, and a little bit more information about them. You have AK Esports, who provide server solutions to us. If you visit them over at akesports.it, find out more about the services that they provide. We also have Go Setups, who provide expertly made ACC setups for all skill levels. They're built by the fastest professional esports drivers and sim racing engineers in the world. You can find a fully tailored setup for you. They're built for both professional driving and safer alternatives as well. Visit the link in the description. Browse their premium setup shop today. We have Digital Motorsports, who are a top brand and are your one-stop shop for everything sim racing. Go over to their website now and check out their sim rig builder. It's really fun to use, and you can build a sim rig from the ground up. Visit the link in the description. Give that a try today as well. Driver 61 are helping their sim racing drivers fulfill their potential out on track. RCI viewers can get 25% off driver coaching by using the discount code in the description of the video below. Go and check that out, and with some coaching, maybe you'll be fighting at the top with some of these drivers today. And then Fanatec do not need any introduction. Everybody knows them as a global leader in high-end sim racing gear. Make sure you use our affiliate link, though, when you buy from them. Thank you very much for doing so. Go and check all of those partners out today as well. So, looking back towards this race, Joshua Nation picking himself up a 5-second time penalty. That will spell the end of their hopes of securing a P1 today. An incident on lap 12 involved turn 2 involving the 95 and the 97 was deemed as a racing incident for minor contact. Lap 21 turn 1 involving the 97 and the number 3 was a warning for car number 97. Then the penalty that we see for Joshua Elation given is on lap 27 turn 4 involving the 97 and the number 3. 5-second penalty for number 97 for causing avoidable contact there. Speaking of Joshua Elation, now they are making the move on their teammate Reese Wilkinson, going down towards the inside. No team orders between the two drivers here, neck and neck through the corner. Going now into the next one is Elation that still has the advantage, although will fall back not have enough momentum to keep up with Wilkinson there. Again, looks towards the inside now. Take a look at the cars as they come very close together with each other, able to keep it out of each other's hair for now, though. But Reese Wilkinson on the back end of things will have to look to take into the rear of Joshua Lation. Number 97 promotes themselves up into P2 overall. P1 in class with that 5-second time penalty now has 10 minutes to extend that gap to 5 seconds if they want to hold on to P1 in the class. Something that might make that easier is Billy Octane on the tail of Wilkinson here, also looking for a way through. Will slow down the Ferrari driver just by fighting them through the circuit as well. So Wilkinson going to want to shake off Billy Octane here and keep close to the rear of Lation, making sure they secure the win in class as well. 10 minutes left in this race. Usually this is the time when we see drivers start to close up those remaining gaps, Austin. And I think there's a couple of drivers here today who have a bit of... They've had a great race, but maybe not the race they were looking for. I mean, Lation probably not going to be too happy picking up the penalty. Wilkinson will be glad with running in P1 for the majority today. Grant Wilmot delighted with what they've been doing out the front. I mean, that gap is now 31 seconds. Austin, if that's you, final race of the season, and you have gapped everyone by 31 seconds, what are your thoughts going into the next champ? Because I know where mine are lying.
I think it's definitely a bump in confidence. I mean, you get to come into the next race knowing, you know, kind of like what the last one was like. And I know that Lawrence didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare. You know, they came in the chat and said, you know, they didn't really have a setup. They'd only driven the car for 20 minutes around here. They didn't know the circuit. But at the same time, you know, a win's a win, and on one of the marks mind, that'll be kind of like on, you know, on their mind. And there's still some really quick drivers out there as well. You know, Wilmot's held off the likes of Verstappen, you know, Octane. Obviously, at this point, Lation as well. Lation is so fast. So, you know, you've gone up against some genuinely really, really good drivers, and there's a lot of potential to take away from that.
Grant Wilmot, yeah, you can't fault him. Austin have had an absolutely amazing race today, has had an amazing championship so far as well. Will finish P2 overall, despite the fact that they have secured themselves a win today. Fastest lap of this race. No, hang on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No. Oh, false alarm. I thought I'd done the math incorrectly then. I was waiting for Jesse to shout at me. No, despite finishing first, they got pole position points as well, and the points for fastest lap. Will only be able to secure second place in the championship overall. But like you said, Austin, it's a vote of confidence in their favour for the next championship as well. Of course, the last couple of seasons, looking back on them over at the Friday Sprint Challenge here at RCI, very much been a story of Martin Lawrence versus Christoph Verstappen. Now you can have Grant Wilmot into that mix as well. John Daly has had their fair share of podiums across the season as a whole too, and one person you can't discount is Joshua Lation, who dominating the Silver Split Championship along with Reese Wilkinson and Ryan Daniels, their teammates. One thing that we haven't mentioned in this race, Austin, but I'm going to be honest, it's been the highlight of the season for me. Let's go back to Paul Ricard, shall we, Austin? Do you remember where Joshua Lation finished at Paul Ricard?
You know, I actually do not.
They finished first in class, which was not too surprising seeing as how the championship's gone. They finished third place on that podium overall. So up with the pros there, managed to beat off Christoph Verstappen and finish in third place overall too. So Joshua Lation, they have proved that they have what it takes to face off the pros here as well. Have pulled off 1.5 seconds to Billy Octane, and that gap is only going to be getting bigger towards the end of this race. 6 minutes left on the clock. Currently doesn't have enough pace to extend that gap enough, but it is going to be very close, Austin. Will they be able to extend it as much as possible? Jesse Lee put their vote of confidence in earlier and said, you know what, I reckon Joshua Lation can do it. They can make this gap 5 seconds. I'm going to say it's going to be very tight, but I'm going to give my confidence to Billy Octane and Reese Wilkinson here. What about you, Austin?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, looking at what he said, it's only 5 minutes left, and it's several seconds to pull up. 5 minutes at 1 minute 30 pace is like what, 4 laps? 4 laps to do like 3 seconds to pull out a gap. I don't think it's gonna happen. I respect Lation a lot. They've proven what they could. They've proven what they can do. You know, they got maybe a little bit shafted at Alton Park. But I think when the bell kind of goes at the end of this race, you know, I think that it will be Octane to take the P2 position. And at this point in time, far behind is Wilkinson on the thing. That's still only 2 seconds, but that's Wilkinson with the drive-through.
Oh, and never mind the end of the fight between teammates Lation and Wilkinson. Another drive-through on the board today. Wilkinson, the third driver to strike victim to the drive-through penalties for track limits. Jesse worried that Octane may get a drive-through penalty as well. I mean, there's 4 minutes left in this race. Anything can happen, though. Austin, speaking of drivers getting shafted in today's race, I mean, look no further than Jack Mekov. Of course, was running in P3 for a little bit, but pressure on Verstappen was really getting close to the rear and looking for a way through the 747 earlier on today, but ended up with a drive-through and then a stop and go. One thing I want to point out for them, their best lap time is a 1:31.747, which everyone's going, you know what, that doesn't mean a lot to me. I don't really know what lap times are like around here. Let me tell you this. The only other driver to beat them in pace around track is Grant Willemars today. Jack Mekov, the Silver Splits driver who joined us for a one-off race today, Austin, currently has the second fastest time out on track and is consistently doing them as well. That gap, 18 seconds to Daniel Girette, has closed up too and has been outpacing the majority of the other teams on the field. They may not have it in terms of consistency. It's a problem having that drive-through penalty and the stop and go. But you know what? Call me crazy. In a couple of months' time, when we come into the next championship, towards the end of the next championship, I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Mekov was at the top.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I mean, you know, those numbers don't really lie, and you know, they were keeping up. As I say, you keep it up with likes of Verstappen, even if he's having a bad season or a bad race. That's not something you should turn your nose about. That's still quite an impressive feat. And
if anyone can pull it off, it's him, right?
I mean, potentially, but you've seen Lation do this. You've seen Lation do the same thing too. You've seen Lation run with the big boys too. So I don't really want to go like saying that Mekov is kind of like, you know, I don't want to say he's not, but I don't want to say he is also kind of, you know, going to be kind of like the messiah, the messiah of Silver Split. So I think there's so many drivers we've sung the praises of all season that you can't just forget, you know, what those drivers have achieved either. So, but I mean, Mekov definitely has the potential to be there and to sort of have us sing their praises as well, and then gain that promotion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think next round probably a Silver Split round for Mekov there. The promotion I'd give happily to Lation Wilkinson. And honestly, I'd give it to Daniels as well. The entire team over at Spinala Motorsports, I think, has earned a promotion this season. So I will be giving my word of confidence to the stewards and the event managers on that one to get them a promotion. And like we said, we were talking to Josh Lation earlier on in the season, and they said that was their goal. They wanted to win in Silver Split. They wanted their team to score a bunch of podiums as well, and the goal for all of them was to get promoted up into that pro class, because they are now taking ACC seriously again. You mentioned earlier, Joshua Lation and the rest of the team had a bit of a break from ACC for a little bit. I can confirm it's been actually about a year and a half now for Joshua Lation on the actual full break on ACC, but even going back a year and a half was more or less starting to go into not a slump. They were still performing well, Austin, but we just didn't see them at quite as many events as they perhaps want to show up at. But it's great to see Joshua Lation and the entire team back behind the wheel. Like you said, and I've said many times, done phenomenally in this championship, and I think what we've seen in this champ as a whole is their promotion story, from them coming from these silver class drivers to fighting at the top with the pros. They can definitely do it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not gonna say they can't, because there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of pace, and you as I say, you can't argue with some of the times they've put in today. So, I mean, looking at things, look at where the timing sheets are coming in. They're like what 15, they're still like what 16 seconds behind Duret, 18 at last check. So yeah, no, they pulled back. What I think it was at least like 5 or 6 seconds. There we go, 16.9 seconds behind Duret. So they pulled back. I believe it was about what 6 to 7 seconds. That's pretty decent in such a short period of time. But it will look like Grant Willamot he's rounded the second to last corner now. Looks like Grant Willamot will be taking the win for this race.
Started on pole position today, secured the fastest lap of this race, and will now be taking home the win as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Grant Willamot, your winner at Valencia here in the Friday Championship for the final race of the season, will be enough to bring that points gap right up to Martin Lawrence, securing them second place in the championship over doing some donut celebratory as well, skidding off the edge of turn one there. A phenomenal race from them. Daniel Duret also crossing the line, will finish P7. Jack Mekov in their debut race, may not have been their time out on track today, but did manage to pull off some absolutely amazing pace from them as well. Will finish in last, but with the second fastest lap of this race. Joshua Lation, ladies and gentlemen, your winner of the Silver Class Championship, your winner of the Silver Class in today's race as well, and your second place podium sitter will come across the line in P2. Billy Octane rounding out that podium, will finish in P3, where those positions will be reversed once that 5-second penalty is served as well. So a great result from Billy Octane, a P2 for them, and Ted Edwards securing another podium in this championship as well. They've been hunting it. No, never mind. That's their first podium in this championship. Ted Edwards and Billy Octane scoring their first podiums in this championship will secure second and fourth overall as well. So a brilliant job from all of them. Joshua Lation, Austin, can we talk for a minute about Joshua Lation finishing on the overall podium twice so far in this season?
I mean, the guy's got pace. You can't. Again, I use the term a lot, but you can't. You really can't shake a stick at that. From start to finish, Lation's just been so consistently up there. It has a massive understanding as to how that car's worked around him. Has a massive understanding of how to set it up. They've spoken a couple of times as well. That the team worked together to kind of pull each other up, and it really shows. I know it was quite unfortunate with Wilkinson having the drive through the penalty, because we saw some great racing between Lation and Wilkinson, but no, it goes to show that both drivers on that team can pull up a lot as well. As can the as can the whole team as well. Obviously they have the third driver as well, so we've seen results from all of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, your Season 11 GT Sprint Challenge winner, Martin Lawrence, joining us now in the interview booth. Martin, congratulations on the championship. Today, obviously, wasn't your day. You said that, just not your track. But congratulations on the championship as a whole. You have dominated this season.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, thanks a lot. It's finally that I won something in the GT3 on RCI. Yeah, today it wasn't like my best day ever, because right before the quali I had to attend to a endurance jump, and let's say that gave me a lot of gray hairs. So yeah, the prep, and I couldn't prep it earlier. So yeah, my let's say like performance today was just not good, politely said, and it's an understatement. Sadly.
Well, today obviously it wasn't your day, but the championship as a whole absolutely was. I mean, you got off to a flying start. You won the first 3 rounds. You came second in the next two as well. Of course, if you even go back a season, you were winning that championship as well until the very end. Would you say that you're happy with your performance in ACC at the moment? Are there some tracks where you think you are very strong around?
Well, I am usually my two favorite, most favorite tracks is Batman Panorama, and the second is a Donington, which was the previous season. And let's say my most favorite car was the M6. So and with that car, like with the top speed, I had a lot of fun. But this season was a little bit different because uh, I think it was due to the update and the new cars, of course, because there was only me and Chris, with, if I remember correctly, with the old cars, and
Hmm.
I had the advantage over the older setups. Sometimes it was working; it just needed few clicks, like nothing extra. So yeah, I had a lot of advantage, especially in the first races. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot with the Aston. It was nice to drive it.
Fair enough. One final question from me before I pass you over to Austin quickly is obviously this championship started with the new update. How have you found the latest update to ACC? Are you enjoying the new cars? Obviously, you drove the Aston Martin in this champ, but are you enjoying the new cars? How have you found the update as a whole?
I found it good. Um, there are of course like few drawbacks. For example, like some of those setup thingies. It's still in play, which I don't like too much. But yeah, as a whole, I think like even the contacts with the new tire physics, it a little bit improved, and I really like it. For example, the wet driving is nice, like coming from the wet to dry. Now it's much more important to keep the wets running as long as you can, because otherwise you drain the dries and you're just fubar completely. So yeah, I like it in a whole. Yeah, I like it. Um, and of course, like few older cars are like worse, but yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it in a like in a global measure, let's say. That's why
Brilliant.
maybe why I, like kept it running for the first few races until everyone else like get used to it.
Nice job. You've done great so far, and a big well done from me, Martin. Austin, is there anything you'd like to ask our championship winner before we say goodbye?
I mean, obviously, I want to echo huge congratulations. You know, it's a huge achievement. You know, kind of coming all the way through to, all the way through to the final stage of the season and you picking it up. And huge thank you for showing up as well, because I think you had already had the championship wrapped up in the bag. There was kind of no obligation to, but you know, and I know that you got off on the wrong foot, but you know, you really kind of stuck at it for as long as you felt like it was safe to. Um,
Yeah, well, I wanted to like finish it with even as a like a really like a bad performance. I at least
of
wanted to finish
course.
because of the like, let's say there was not too many people into this race. Sadly, I'm always sad to see that, but yeah, I would be dangerous even like with this like no practice and like wonky driving. I wouldn't be safe to drive, so I didn't want to cause any collision and stuff. I'm just not the guy who comes completely
Of course.
unprepared and will be unresponsible to drive into other guys.
Of course, yeah, and it takes a lot to admit that as well. And you know, congratulations on that. I suppose my only real question is, how have you found the Aston this season specifically? Do you feel like it's still competitive, or do you feel like you'd have chosen something different in hindsight?
It's a bit different. The biggest change overall is the electronics. I think that's in basically every car. One of the hugest difference is in M4, but Aston now we were used to like run the meta from since 1.6, 1.7 early. That's the TC1 on 1, TC2 on 8. But that's not the story anymore. It's completely different. The ABS is completely different. So it was a little bit of a learning process, but yeah, the Aston is good in this update. It's just I don't think it's the top pace overall, but the race pace is glorious. It's really nice. It's stable. It doesn't ruin the tires too much. It's very nice to drive it around.
That's actually quite some amazing insight as well. Thank you so much. I think honestly that's all. I mean, Tim, as per usual, you just steal all my questions. I think the questions in my head. I got to ask them, and no, you seem to cover all of the points. But no, as I said, I think that for me, yeah, no, huge congratulations. It's I know last season was tough, right up until the end. It's good. It's good seeing you take this one. I think it's really well deserved.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you very much. If I will have the time in real life, I will sure join another season. It will be in the play, hopefully with more people to drive around. But yeah, real life just matters more. So if I will have the time, I will be here again.
Well, congratulations to you in this championship, Martin. You've done an absolutely phenomenal job, and I know there are a lot of fans cheering you on from the chat as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that was your championship winner, Martin Lawrence. Now, we will also get an interview with Joshua Lation, the winner of the Silver Champ. But just before we get to that, we're going to show you the final standings from this Friday championship. They'll be up on your screen very shortly. So here are the pro standings for season 11 of the Friday Sprint Challenge. Martin Lawrence with 168 points wins the championship. Grant Wilmore, after a brilliant performance today, scores 153 points and comes second place. Christopher Streppen has 93 points and they are in third place overall. John Daly originally was tied with them, but since signed out the championship, it looks like, so will no longer score any points at all. Meaning Ted Edwards gets a promotion up into fourth. They have 83 points. Billy Octane, Kiyakowski, Antonello Lagalante, Kubaki, Chris van der Lind, and Ives van Sand round out the top 10 of the pros. And over to you, Austin, for the results of the Silver Championship.
So Joshua Lation with 178 points in first place. Reese Wilkinson with 154 and Ryan Daniels in third place with 117. Daniel Durant in P4 with 106 points. Stefano Vicato with 79 in P5. P6 is Virtus with 27. 26, Ibiza Racer in 7th place. Jack Mekov in 8th place with 23 points. Glenn also with 0 points in P9, and everybody else has signed out.
And that is how the championship is after the final race of the season. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere because we are now joined in the booth by the Welsh Dragon himself, the winner of the silver class of season 11, Joshua Lation. What a phenomenal season you've had.
Yeah, no, nice on that. It was tough today. I've had, other commitments, so I've been unable to practice. But yeah, today I knew I didn't really have to go out there and win. It was more about going out there, having a bit of fun for the last race and just do my job, finish in the top three. But yeah, overall, I'm massively pleased. It's something I wanted to do for the last 2 seasons, and Reese pushed me all the way, which made me work that a little bit harder throughout the season as well. So yeah, really, really good effort for the team as well.
Well, obviously today at points in time you were fighting off your teammate Reese Wilkinson until they unfortunately scored themselves a drive-through penalty right at the end. We were having our own debates as to who we thought would come out on top. What was your view on it? Who do you think would have come out on top today? You or Reese?
If I'm honest, after we did a bit of practice beforehand, we jumped on just before the official one. He was quicker than me throughout, and then I had a terrible qualifier, and I don't know why the car with 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 no fuel in just didn't feel right. I was losing it in a particular spot every lap, just costing me 2-3 tenths a second. But yeah, it all seemed to come together in the race, and I had a quick look at the timetables for free practice. Noticed my race pace was actually a little bit better than Reese's. But we're only talking 1-2 tenths. But after the start, I thought Reese had started to disappear, but that was fine. He was doing a good job, and then I think he got caught up fighting some other cars, making their way through. But yeah, before the race started, I thought Reese was going to take it. I didn't, to be honest with you. I thought the other guy in the Porsche in silver, Mekov, He looked really, really quick at the start of the race, but he picked up a drive through. But I think Reese was the quicker car going into the race, but it just seemed to click for me. But unfortunately, I got caught up in a bit of stuff with Octane. I mean, I've looked at it back. I can kind of understand the 5 seconds, but I mean, it is what it is. He's not in my class. But next season, we'll try and avoid that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm just so it's done now, and I'll be in pro class next season definitely.
A big well done to you on that. We know from talking to you at the beginning of the season that was your aim for this championship. Austin, you keep complaining that I'm going to steal all your questions, so I'm going to pass Josh over to you now early on so that I've not stolen them all. But Austin, any questions for Josh?
I mean, I suppose the one thing we noticed earlier on. Is it just me, or was there a livery change for this race? I noticed the addition of the gold.
Yeah, there was. I always do it for finales. I tend to do it. If you go back and look at some of the others, I do seem to go for the gold livery. It's not because, I thought I was going to win the championship today. Our team colors are the white, the blue, and the gold. So you'll see us in the white, blue, and gold tomorrow in the 4 hours. But this season, because we avoid confusion for the broadcast, we thought we'd add our own little accent to it. So obviously I had the pink, Reese had the red, and Daniels, who couldn't race tonight, he had like the luminous green. But for this race, I always do it for the finale. I throw a load of gold on there, and thankfully, it's not the only gold coming home with me tonight. Thankfully, so yeah, over the moon. But yeah, good spot, definitely good spot.
I couldn't resist not bringing that one up. I think I brought it up to Tim, during the broadcast. We were like, "Oh, we think it is a different one." No, it's clearing that one up. I mean, and I suppose the final question I have is echoing the same question I asked Lawrence. How has the Ferrari been this season? Is it a car you'd pick up again for the next one, or would you try something different?
I mean, yeah, it's been great. It was a bit of a, I don't want to use the term dog, but it wasn't great today. But that was my lack of preparation. I always like to be, relatively have like an hour or two track time before we get to Friday. But this week I just haven't had the time. I got in about 6:15 today, so I just jumped straight on and had to learn. Usually what happens is you go out 20 minutes, you change something on the setup, go out do another 20 minutes. Today it was more 3 laps, change something, 3 laps, and I just couldn't get it to click. But in the race, it just seemed to work for me. I'm a bit of a Ferrari fanboy. I've pretty much raced the 488, the original one, the 488 Evo, and now the 296 as well. So I don't think I'll change for next season, just because it's my first season in pro. So I think I'll take the Ferrari again, just to stay in my comfort zone for a little, for a season. But then season after next, yeah, I think you might see me in something maybe front engine, just mix it up a little bit.
Oh, sounds actually quite exciting. But no, a huge congratulations, by the way, on the championship. I mean, you said at the start of the season, it was your aim, it was your goal. You've gone and smashed it. So congratulations.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think Reese is going to come up with me. I know Daniels will get offered, but I think he wants to stay in the silver class because, I mean, the silver class this time around, I know the numbers dwindled out after a bit of time. It was, I don't want to sound like that guy, but it was going to be me, Wilkinson, and Daniels in some particular order in the top three. It's just how it worked because a lot of people dropped out, which is a great shame. I don't even think it was possible for Reese to win the championship today unless I DNF'd. I think I needed to finish 5th or lower, and he needed to get the pole position, which he got, the fastest lap and the race win. So unfortunately, he didn't actually have a chance unless I DNF'd. And I'll be honest, I'll drive the car around with 3 wheels if it meant I finished today. So I'll be honest, I weren't retiring because I knew what was at stake. But no, Reese again, like look at the step forward that he's made more than me. Him as a team, as a teammate. We're gonna push on now, and we're gonna go into pro. I think I got 3rd overall, and Reese ended up I think like 5th overall as well. So it all bodes well, and we'll just see how we get on tomorrow. Now it's our first team race tomorrow. Me and Reese will be doing the 4 hour. So again, we'll just turn up and see what happens. But yeah, thanks guys for doing the broadcast, and I'll see you next season.
Thank you very much, Josh. It's been a pleasure having you, and congratulations on the promotion up into pro. Of course, you were right. You heard him say it yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Joshua Relation finishing the season overall in P3. Teammate Reese Wilkinson finishing overall in P5. That's amongst all the pros too. Ryan Daniels, their other teammate, finished in the top 10 as well. P9 overall for the third Spinala Motorsport driver. Well, it's been a great season so far. And before we wrap up, Austin, just got a couple of things that need to be mentioned, of course. We have our partners who have helped make all of these races in the championship possible. AK Esports, a leader in esports management and competitions around the world. Go to their website, akesports.it, to find out more. Digital Motorsports are a top brand for your one-stop shop for everything sim racing. Go over to their website. The link is in the description below. You can try out their new sim rig builder today. Driver 61 helps sim racers to feel their full potential. RCI viewers, you can get 25% off driver coaching by using the discount code in the description of the video. Go Setups provide expertly made ACC setups. Go over to their website, visit the link in the description, browse their premium setup shop today. And then Fanatec don't need any introduction. They are a global leader in high-end sim racing gear. You are intending to buy anything from Fanatec anytime soon, please use the RCI affiliate link when you do so, and it helps us. Thank you so much if you do that as well. Of course, usually this is the point in time, Austin, where I mention all the other races that are going to be happening across the week. We only actually have the Night Owl, which is tomorrow. It may or may not be streamed. I think we are planning on streaming it with Jesse Lee behind the broadcast yet again. Kevin Boss and Ted Edwards will be joining you for the commentary for the penultimate round of the Night Owl. Of course, not got any other streams going on at the moment. We wrapped up the esports 6-hour series last weekend, and the Friday Championship was, of course, wrapped up today as well. But if you're looking to get involved in any of our championships in the future, maybe you want to be one of the people that we commentate on in the next Friday Championship when it comes up, you can go over to our website at racerci.com/championships and see what championships we have ongoing and available to sign up to there. At the moment, you can sign up to the 4 hours of Silverstone tomorrow, which is a 4-hour race you can do with a teammate around the track Silverstone. Both GT3 and GT4 cars are involved in that. Also, if you'd like to get involved in our ongoing Monday Championship, the BMW Academy, we will be doing the second race of the season on this Monday, going around Brands Hatch, and I believe I want to say the touring cars for the BMW. I am right, it is the touring cars, and then it'll be 2 races in the GT4s, finishing up with 2 races in the GT3 BMW as well. Go and check that out over on our website. If you've enjoyed today's race, then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also streaming now on Twitch, so make sure you go over and give that a follow, and also consider liking and hitting the bell notification if you'd like to receive updates whenever we go live. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today for the final race of the season. I know I speak for both me and Austin when I say it's been an absolute pleasure to cast. We've had some great battles up and down the field. We've got to watch some people gain their promotions as well. And even in these late stages, a newcomer of Jack Mekov, you heard from Joshua Elation, shakes up some drama for potentially next season as well. So definitely make sure you join us and check that out in a couple of weeks' time. Thank you, all of you, for joining us in the chat today, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.